we go, taking it off, we're warmed up. This is the stage 3 of Bag That Badge series. I don't really know what the series is about, but I enjoyed them. So here are my amping up watts because we're about to go in 3, 2, 1. I'm going to show probably the first minute of the race. Everybody always pushes high watts out of the gate if you haven't learnt that already. So I was pushing around that 300 watt mark, 280 to 300, which for me would be just above threshold. So I'm going to say like a 4.5 watts per kilo sort of gate time. And now I'm letting more people come over me so I can start enjoying a nice bit of draft. So we're going to do 3 laps. Essentially, the first lap's a little different to this last 2. And in total, the race will be 18 kilometres or just over. So we're 5 minutes in now and we're coming up to the first sort of incline. So you can see it's going 3%, 4%. So this is where I'm expecting people to go a bit harder and potentially the bunch to split up a little. I'm using my draft boost because I know I'll get plenty more as the race goes on, and that's just going to help me stay in a little better and for this effort to be a little less painful and not as taxing as I progress through the race. But as you can see, I'm pushing over 400 watts there just to make sure I'm definitely in the bunch. I probably could have eased up a little more than I did. So here, for example, I don't really think I needed to keep pushing quite so many watts, but all good. We've definitely made sure that we're in that front part of the group. As you can see on the mini map, it's split up. So I think there was about 10 or so in the front group, and the remaining 10 to 15 didn't push hard enough over that climb to make sure they were in this front selection. It was actually probably more than 10, more like 14, maybe 15 riders, but there you can see the chasing groups. There's that one rider trying to make it back, putting in a really big effort, because even those groups working together, there's so many people in the front that you'd have to put in such a solid effort and really just have missed the boat, but had the strength to be there if you could have, to actually make it back at this point. But there he is. I think that's him on the green bike making it back, so good on him. And now we're 9.5 minutes in, coming into the finish of the first lap. So I was quite conscious at this point of people potentially trying to make a breakaway, so I was just making sure I was sticking in as best as possible. And there you go. So you can see on the mini map someone has made a break. It's still relatively early in the race though, so I figured the group wouldn't let it go. I'd just monitor how big the gap got. So there's someone chasing it down, but it wasn't getting bigger. So I figured they weren't getting too much of a gap, and I'm better off just sticking in and drafting and letting other people chase this one down. I think this was definitely the right call. But you can see the watts are still really high, just to follow the wheels of everyone that was pushing, which is good because you want people to push and make it. You just want to be working less than the people around you. That's the goal in any race, but especially on Zwift. But it's coming back together. They're within sight. I'm not too worried at this point. A lot of people were using their power-ups, but I was holding on to mine because I was confident it was coming back and it was quite manageable for me at the time. And I had an aero which would be much better suited to if I had to follow something on my own rather than following other people that were getting it back together. So here's the next attack. So we're almost 14 minutes in now, and I decide to use my aero to make sure that this doesn't go anywhere. And then it runs out, but perfect timing. I've got a couple of people coming over me, so I can just draft off them. Looking back, this is potentially somewhere I could have saved a bit of energy. I don't think I needed to keep pushing so many watts, knowing that the group was going to come back. And you can see my heart rate's at 174, so I was definitely hustling to make sure that didn't go anywhere. But I just knew that counter-attack is usually a dangerous one after people have already been chasing, because people get away when people are already tired. But I could have sat up because, look, everybody comes over the top and we're all fine. And now fast forward to the next attack. We're going into the end of the second lap, 19 minutes in now, and there will be one lap to go, 5.6 kilometers, so not really very far. So I would expect the attacks now to be pretty serious. So someone's gone off the front, and I'm hoping that the group will chase this down, and I'm sticking in trying to get some recovery. Heart rate's down to 167, so I'm not pushing quite as hard as I was following the last attack yet. And I'm always trying to just find the best spot in the peloton where I can get maximum draft. I'm not really fully comfortable with this new algorithm yet and how it places you. I tend to ease up and then I don't fall back into the middle, which is a bit annoying. But I think I handled that one pretty well. This guy's about to be caught. Or actually, sorry, the other guy was caught and now the next attack is going. Now, with hindsight of knowing how this race ends, I probably should have followed that guy. So 22 minutes in now, we have 3.6 kilometers to go until the end of this race. And this is what I was waiting for, someone else to make a move, and my plan was I follow. So here I go, I'm using my drafting boost, but then I've got no one to draft off, so it's going to waste, which I didn't like. So I thought, well, I'll sit up and I'll make the use of my draft as opposed to sprinting to try and catch this person that has gone up the road, as that would have probably taken a lot of my finishing energy and potentially I might not have even made it. So I thought this was the safer option. I just have to bank on the group chasing this down. If I was quicker to get on that initial attack, then I'm pretty confident that probably would have been the smartest thing to do, and I would have made it back to the guy in the lead, but I did not. So it's the D Watkins that I should have followed to make it back to F Tummy. But I didn't, and so we're back in this position where I'm having to rely on other people wanting to do the work. And you can see they're at about 6 seconds and 8 seconds. So D Watkins, who did that powerful sprint out of the bunch to catch up, is only 2 seconds behind F Tummy. And obviously I would have assumed he made it back, but as you'll see, he actually doesn't make it back, or at least he can't hold the wheel once he does. So he's still 1 second and now 2 seconds back from F Tummy, which in Zwift means you're not getting that maximum draft. And you can see from the watts per kilo that F Tummy was consistently pushing to sort of 5.2 and staying away from D Watkins. So yeah, I think he really had to push really hard, D Watkins, to close that gap, and then didn't have enough left in the moment to stick on F Tummy. So there's 1.2 kilometers to go. This is the final stretch to the line, and you can see on the mini map how far the 2 leaders are from the group. So with a kilometre to go, I wasn't thinking we were catching either of them at this stage. So now I'm starting to think about timing for this final sprint. How many wheels back do I want to be? How far out from the line am I going to go? I don't have a power up, so I knew it was all down to timing and how much I had left in the tank. I thought I would start quite far back and hold off my sprint till quite late, try to get maximum draft and wait for people that may have tired out. So 400 meters to go now. People start sprinting here. I should have started as well in hindsight, but I thought, no, I'll just push a bit harder, start to draft. And then I realized it's under 300 meters. And I'm like, oh, I should have already been sprinting, especially because it breaks up so much. But I mean, it's fine. So if I'd started a bit earlier, hopefully I would have got a couple more places. But that's how it panned out. So I came 7th overall in the end, but have a look at the watts per kilo, 3.9, same as the winner. And this is what baffles me, but apparently is a thing. And it's what happens with lighter riders. You have to push more watts to have generate the same speed on flat and obviously downhill. Because everyone is typically a man and I am a woman, it does take more power for me to travel with the bunch, even though I'm drafting, as you can see there. So that's the final result, 7th place. I would have liked that to be a couple better if I'd timed my sprint better or had a power up, but ideally I would have followed F. Tummy in the first place. But as you can see, we ended up catching D. Watkins. So it really was a close one and could have gone either way. So there you go, that was my race. I actually think that in these B grade community races where there is like 30 or so people, there always tends to end up being a break of about 10. I would guess, based on my own capabilities and what performance I generally give in one of these, those 10 that are breaking away are kind of more Zwift's A grade riders that don't know yet that they're A grade or that haven't done 90 days of like max 20-minute efforts for them to have a minimum A grade ranking. I have an A grade FTP. If I had done max efforts for the last 90 days, I wouldn't even be able to enter B grade. But I also know that in these races, I rarely ever win them. I might be top 10, but I rarely ever win them. I generally actually perform pretty similar to what I'm performing in these B grade races. I know some people have thoughts about how Zwift should change the ranking, doing a results-based system, for example, rather than actual power. I don't know. I don't have the answers. I'm really enjoying doing these races at the moment. I think I'm learning a lot as I do them, and it's almost like you think you're good at Zwift and you know how to do things and how to time things, and then you do a race and you're like, oh, I got that really wrong. If you can add any insight to this whole drafting thing and algorithm and the ranking, please do so in the comments. Also, let me know what you want to see. As usual, thanks for watching.